Yes, I did do this once before. It failed miserably. Now, what happened was I started the podcast, and then I went on a long time of work where I had a bunch of outages, and I just ended up working a bunch of overtime. So then it just was like, well, I can't do the podcast when I worked 16 hours for like 5 days in a row.
And then a hurricane.
Well, the hurricane was a bit unfortunate, but unfortunately, I wish I could claim that the hurricane was the reason why I stopped the podcast, but actually, it was well before that. So what are you gonna do? I remember at one time I tried to have my brother-in-law on, and it was probably the most unexciting thing. I thought he would banter and play a little more, but it was very, very unexciting. And I let him know about that, and that if the chance ever arose again, it wouldn't happen.
So what you're saying is be very careful who you invite on the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, not my brother-in-law. I'll tell you that much right now. Welcome to the Gentiles, our very first podcast. I would tell you my name, but that feels awkward to just be like, I'm Sam Evans. Welcome to the Gentiles with Austin Lynch and Sam Evans. Oh. So instead of doing something dumb like that, I'll just start the podcast. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing the podcast, Austin?
We don't have enough to do.
We don't have enough to do. That's number one. Number two, podcasts are great ways of conversation and coffee. And Austin actually wrote me a poem and won this coffee from Firebrand Magazine. Magazine?
Yes.
Firebrand Magazine, and he won me this mug with a poem that he wrote. So.
And if Firebrand would like to sponsor this podcast, they're more than welcome to.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, we have a couple sponsors to get through. We'd like to thank TBN, Trinity Broadcasting Network, for sponsoring this podcast, as well as Kenneth Copeland Ministries. So we'd like to thank our sponsors right now, and just make sure that we go over that. I'm kidding. We don't have any sponsors. That was fake. Just like the pre-tribulation.
Please don't sue us.
Don't sue us. And just like the pre-tribulation rapture, it's not real.
Ooh.
So
hate mail.
So, podcasts are great.
We're going to hear that one.
Yeah, podcasts are great, and they're great ways to get information, and also hear people blab on for an hour long. That's also what they're good for.
I think at the end of the day, we just want to be able to have those conversations, maybe bring some theology into it.
I like it.
And just have a good time.
I like it.
So for like the two people that listen to it.
Yes. I was thinking.
It'll be good.
I was thinking that if we just get one like at the end of this, that we'll do another one. Yeah. But then I also thought of the meme. Have you ever seen the meme with Godzilla? And he's on Facebook, and Godzilla has a Facebook account, and it says, if I get one like on this post, I'll attack Tokyo. And then you look at the one like, and it's Godzilla. And then there's one comment that says, say no more, and it's also Godzilla.
Are we allowed to like and comment on our own things?
I don't know. Do people like their own things?
I've seen that.
It's sort of.
My favorite is
your own hype man.
They write bump. they'll put a status up. They put bump.
I don't think I've seen that.
Like apparently nobody has seen this, so I gotta make sure I put it in their news feed by making a comment.
All right. Tell them what we're drinking today.
So this was part of the agreement of the podcast is that we have to drink a different coffee every time. And so this is rough on Sam because he typically likes to put creamer and sugar and frou-frou sweeteners.
That's not true.
We will only drink black coffee. So today we are drinking from the Atlas Coffee Club, Guatemala, which according to the back, the ingredients are coffee.
Guatemala's finest.
Yeah.
I like it.
It is good.
I think what we should do, since we're drinking Guatemalan coffee, we should speak Spanish the entire podcast.
Yo quiero Taco Bell.
Sí, yo quiero coffee.
El Camino? I don't know. That's all I got.
Coffee es bueno.
El baño.
I one time I said delicioso in front of all the Cuban guys I used to work with, and then they informed me that men don't say that. They're like,
really?
They're like, yeah, men don't really say delicioso. I was like, oh, okay, yeah.
I think I've said that at the Mexican restaurant before.
Yeah, so
Probably shouldn't.
I don't know. That was a Cuban thing.
Oh.
But, you know, those are Cuban. So maybe in Mexico that works. Maybe in Mexico.
Maybe in Mexico it's perfectly fine.
Maybe.
Okay. Well, we'll keep doing it until I'm corrected.
Yeah, so. What else do we got? What's new in your week?
Gosh.
Or the past week?
So, just a little introduction. I am a hospice chaplain and a pastor. And so I always say all of my closest friends tend to be dying.
I would say that's true.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so I get to visit a lot of people, and that also turns into a lot of funerals, a lot of funeral home visits, and so that has literally been my last few weeks actually. So kind of, I mean, it's the bittersweet moment. You know?
Yeah.
But this weekend I get a break. I'm going kayaking, camping, and fishing.
Nice. Where at?
Gauley River.
Gauley.
And for those that don't know, that is in the southern part of the state of West Virginia.
Everybody that's going to listen to this podcast knows.
You don't know that. I've had people in West Virginia go, Gauley River, where's that?
Actually, if I were to go out,
like rafting?
If I were to go out and ask Alyssa where the Gauley River is right now, she would have no idea.
See?
Yeah, she would.
And
have
Alyssa
no idea.
might listen to this.
She will listen to it, and then she will probably just berate me.
Once. She'll listen to it once.
Yeah, she'll listen to it once and just berate me and be like, you said a total of 37 times, and nobody wants to hear that. And so be like, oh, okay.
One of those.
I will try to do better.
Regardless, that's what I'm looking forward to.
Okay.
So that's going to be a nice break, and lots of fishing.
Nice.
What about you?
Good luck. I don't have much going on this weekend. Actually, 4th of July is coming up, so I'll probably get into something this weekend. I'd like to go buy some fireworks and not blow any digits off of. So if you're watching this right now, I have 10 digits. I want to keep my digits. So I do want to buy some fireworks and maybe do something with that. You know.
I challenge you to set off fireworks with your toes.
We used to take bottle rockets. This isn't an advertisement, kids, or good advice. We used to take bottle rockets, and we would hold them in our hands like this, and then they would shoot off, and we would shoot them at each other. But there was a couple close calls, and we quit. So
this podcast is brought to you by Frank's Firework Tent right beside Walmart.
This podcast is brought to you by Frank's Firework Tent. I did have a pretty good last weekend. Elena had some volleyball games, so that was cool. We went and watched volleyball. I'd never watched a volleyball game before, so that was cool. Only dominated at the church.
Oh.
Now that was all. I've never actually watched a volleyball game, so now I watched a whole full weekend of tournaments. And so that was cool. And we went to the Ace Adventure Park at Tigard.
Okay.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've never been there.
Yeah, we are not sponsored by Ace Adventures at Target.
But if they would like to sponsor us, we're more than willing to take their money.
Yeah, we're more than willing, yes. I did have a bit of a crazy thing happen to me. See, I'm going to get yelled at for saying right there. I just did it. We were at Walmart. We went to the tournament on Friday, and then we went to Walmart afterwards because it was pouring down the rain, and my shirt got thoroughly soaking wet because I was the sacrificial lamb that went out to the car.
Right.
Because evidently, you know, my wife and 3 kids couldn't do it, so I had to do it. I had to be a man.
Been there.
Yeah. So I go around and get the car. I'm soaking wet, but we had already planned to go to dinner afterwards with Alyssa's family. So they were going to Texas Roadhouse. So we go to Texas Roadhouse, but on the way I'm like, I gotta do something about a shirt because when I say it's saturated, like wringing wet. So I said, let's go to Walmart because Walmart is right there, and you just run in and grab me a shirt. Just grab me whatever shirt. And so Alyssa goes in, she grabs me a shirt. At Walmart, it was a very unconventional Walmart trip. There was a guy doing voodoo in the corner.
What?
She said the lights were out in the corner, and there was just a guy down in the corner, like with a bunch of like candles and stuff, and he's just doing voodoo in the corner. She said that was like something that was odd. And we get out to the parking lot. She gives me the shirt. I put the shirt on, and we look up. And at the same time, when we look up, there's a medical emergency going on at somebody's car. So I rush over there, and I help get the guy out of the car. But the guy's car that we helped him get out of, that guy left. And then his girlfriend was there at his girlfriend's car. And at this point, I'm like, this isn't right. Something's wrong. Like, something's wrong here. This isn't right.
Are you making this up?
No, I promise you.
Okay.
This happened.
Okay.
At this point, I'm like, well, this isn't right. This guy just bolted. That's shady. So the guy was still breathing on his own. So I didn't do CPR, but I laid him in the rescue or the recovery position, like they teach you in the CPR classes. So I put him in recovery position, and the lady that he was with called 911. They gave him, the Narcan, got him up, all that.
So
saved his life.
It was an overdose.
It was an overdose, yeah.
Oh my god.
I told you, it was shady. When the guy took off, it was shady.
Wow.
Saved his life. The Narcan did, not me.
Yeah.
Not me. All I did was lay the guy on the ground. I didn't do anything. But, yeah. It put the realization, like, usually, because a lot of those CPR trainings I do online at work, so I'm just like, click, 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 click. And if I get the questions wrong, I just go back and I'm like, which one did I get wrong? And then I just guess until I get the right one. But it brought a little bit of a realization onto maybe paying a little bit more attention to that, because I was probably seconds from having to do CPR on this guy.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a bit much.
You know how easy it is to get Narcan?
Somebody told me about that, actually.
Yeah, so I'm Narcan certified.
You are?
I carry Narcan with me.
Do you really?
I do.
Where were you on Friday when I needed you?
I have no idea. I can't keep up with where I was yesterday.
Yeah.
No, seriously. I think the health department, they were set up an event, and you literally go up, and I just walked up to the booth, and I said, I want to do whatever with the Narcan. I think that's an exact quote of what I said. And they're like, you want trained? I said, yes. They literally handed me a box with Narcan in it, and they said, if somebody overdoses, and this was like the kind that you squirt in the nostrils.
Yeah, that's what they gave them.
They're like, you just put it up there and you squirt it, and if they're not overdosing, it's not going to hurt them.
Really?
Yep.
Interesting.
And then they gave me a little paper like to read, and then I signed a thing, and now I carry Narcan.
It took like 10 minutes for that guy to fully come to, but he did. He started to come to right when I left. I made sure the lady was good to be on her own because she was pretty freaked out, but then I went into the car, yeah.
So you're like a hero almost.
No, like I
Almost.
Yeah, I guess almost. Yeah, almost.
You ran the other shady guy off.
Yeah, maybe that wasn't a good thing.
Maybe.
Probably wasn't a good thing.
Welcome to Clarksburg.
Yeah, I can say that this never happened in Florida. I never experienced that in Florida.
Okay, but every great news article starts with a Florida man.
Yeah, there's some wild stuff that happened.
There's
in Florida.
some crazy stuff that
Somebody said something to me. Somebody said something to me. They're like, I saw another article about Florida man. Ha ha ha. And I literally said, a guy got out of traffic on I-79 with a gun the other day and was shooting at police. I was like, don't tell me Florida man.
Yeah.
West Virginia doesn't get to say Florida man.
We have some weird stuff here.
But
that's for sure.
I got into the car, and this is a bit of a terrible take on the situation because I really do hope the person gets help, and I hope that
absolutely.
I hope they get clean. But I got into the car. Alyssa said, that was crazy, and I said, yeah, I think from now on I'm going to shop at Target. Because I feel like that's less likely to happen at Target.
Walmart is the interesting place where like every culture and every socioeconomic class collides. You know, so like you have a guy in a business suit with like the person with the droopy Tweety Bird tattoo, pajamas, you know, like and they're just all there together and they're in the same line, and it's an interesting
I feel like I'm in the camera too much, so I'm gonna slide this over just a little bit more so you're in there.
I'm trying to stay.
Yeah, I was trying to stay out, but yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I mean, you definitely don't see that. At least not in West Virginia. You don't see that same thing happening at Target. It's pretty much Walmart.
Yeah.
But Walmart is one of the top employers in the state.
Yeah, my uncle retired from Walmart with a pretty good living. Yeah, honestly.
Well, I know, like, I'm from Nicholas County, and the top employer in Nicholas County is the Nicholas County Board of Education, and number 2 is Walmart.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of the reality we live in.
Yeah, and for some places, it's nowhere else to go grocery shopping other than maybe like one Shop and Save, but that can get expensive sometimes.
Dollar General. Those things pop up everywhere.
We're about to be sued by Shop and Save because I just said that. I am in no way advocating on behalf of Walmart over Shop and Save, and I do apologize for that.
We have no preference.
I have no preference in where you
which
grocery shop.
store you go to.
Yes. Let's see. Let's do some current events. Bob Huggins is out.
Oh, man.
Huggy Bear.
Listen.
That was a rough one.
All right. So Bob Huggins is a state treasure.
He is.
And listen, I am not endorsing drinking and driving by any stretch. Don't do it. You know, that's not a good thing. That being said, the guy volunteered to go to like a 60-day rehab.
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Oh, yeah. No, so I think it was his daughter that wrote a Facebook post about this that got shared. So apparently he decided, like he went to the administration and he said, I will go to a 60-day treatment rehab for alcoholism, which his daughter alleges he's not an alcoholic. He drinks occasionally, but not alcoholic.
But when he does drink, does he just go hard in the paint with the basketball pun here?
Something. But regardless, that's what he said. He said he would go to a treatment center, and the response from Gordon Gee and WVU was, you have 30 minutes to decide if you want to be fired or if you want to resign. And so then WVU, in response, just gets an interim head coach from the staff, because that way they can keep the team together. And now how many people have entered the transfer portal?
Yeah, it's not working. Yeah,
no.
It's not going to happen.
No.
It's tough to bring somebody from an assistant coach to a head coach. I don't know why, but that tends to not work out in college sports.
I think the thing with Huggins is that he bled blue and gold. Mm-hmm. You know, like this was. I mean, he just took
West Virginia.
He just took $1 million pay cut because of things that he said on a
things that you're going to hear on this podcast.
Things that I'm not going to say on this podcast. But he used some slurs, and he used the slur, and then he doubled down in like a couple sentences later, and he said it again.
Not only did he say
it wasn't like an oops, I slipped up and said it. It was very intentional.
Not only did he do it,
not endorsing what he said, but just saying like that's Bob Huggins,
right?
Like that's what West Virginia has known as Bob Huggins, and so. I think if those incidences had not occurred as closely together as they did, he would not have been forced to resign.
Yeah, fully agree.
But I just feel like the university felt they had no option. So now we have a tanked football program and a soon-to-be tanked basketball program.
Yeah.
And so don't drink and drive.
Yeah, that I do like the idea that he said he was going to go get help. Like, I'll go get help, and I want to be better. Yeah, I like that idea. That's good.
Well, he was already going to be doing sensitivity training for the slurs.
Yeah, I had to, because the way my mind works, I just think, kind of like when I got in the car and was like, I'd rather shop at Target from now on. Like, just the way that my mind processes things, when I found out about it, I thought, I wonder if he was at the sensitivity training and just couldn't take it.
Just couldn't take it.
So
he was drinking because he was at the sensitivity training.
Yeah.
Who knows? I don't know. I have mixed emotions. I mean, at the end of the day, I obviously would have loved to have seen him stay and just. I think it could have been a teachable moment, even for the team, you know, and to say like, okay, this isn't the end of his career, but there is a punishment he has to face, and you know what? I guarantee you, had WVU come back and said we're going to dock your pay another $1 million annually, he would have stayed.
Right. Yeah, he was really up against the slur and then the drunk driving back to back. That didn't help out well.
No. So we'll see what happens with WVU basketball.
But yeah, it was. I mean, it's embarrassing for the school, no doubt. But then that was like a month ago, and that was too much for Huggins to endure.
Too much.
Yeah.
What else happened?
The submarine thing.
Oh yeah.
I don't really know what to say about it other
that
than that was pretty dumb.
That was nuts.
Yeah. Evidently, the Navy knew that it had imploded long before, like.
Yeah, and they just kind of kept it up.
They just were like, yeah, let's let the family just have some hope. I don't know. It was weird. It was weird.
I mean, does that surprise you? Not to go anti-government here, but does that surprise you from the government?
No. No, it doesn't.
No, nothing to see here, folks. No, I at the end of the day, I mean, it's obviously sad. The loss of life. Life is precious. It's sad. But was it like $250,000 a piece?
Yeah.
These guys paid?
It was a lot. Well, that's the thing is that if you polish something up nice enough and you charge a high amount for it, sometimes people just think that it has value because you're like, look how much this is. And so they're like, that must be really great. Let's go for it. It's $250,000. I'm a millionaire. I want to brag about this. It was pretty poor, especially if you looked up people's reviews on them that had gone before. There was some other shoddy reviews.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there was.
So this wasn't their first submarine.
Yeah,
trip?
I don't. Yeah, and the whole idea that you couldn't even open the inside from that it was remote. You couldn't even open the inside yourself. No fail safes. It was. Just
Did you see the video of the tour on the inside? It was literally a Bluetooth controlled PlayStation controller that controlled this thing. I don't know if I'm stepping into a submarine that I've just paid $250,000, which is laughable that I would even consider that an option. But let's just say I did, and I step in, and the guy who's running this thing is like, "Oh yeah, here's how we steer it," and it's a PlayStation controller with Bluetooth.
Yeah.
No, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah.
No, that's.
Yeah, if I feel like they probably showed up and they poked the side of it and their finger pushed it in a little bit, and they were just like, yeah, let's just make this happen anyway.
Yeah.
There was a video where a guy made a submarine to go into his pond out of a propane tank. Maybe they could call that guy for part of their engineering team. I don't know.
Why would you want to take a propane tank into your pond?
I have no idea, but that guy did.
Did he put a window in it?
I don't remember.
Or just
probably.
Just wanted to let everybody know he could submerge himself in a propane tank in his pond.
It was just in a pond.
Oh gosh.
So yeah, I don't know.
Because we're bored.
Still pretty gutsy to do in a pond though, because what if?
I mean, not as gutsy to do in
not
an
as
ocean.
gutsy as going 8,000 deep. Yeah, I agree.
Gosh. Yeah. No, more than that wasn't. It was isn't Titanic 2.5 miles down?
Well, they ended up finding them.
Oh, they never made it.
Oh yeah, that's right. They never made it.
So all that way, and they didn't even get to see Titanic.
They were 1,600 feet from the Titanic, so I don't know if they made it there or they found the wreckage. I think 1,600 feet. So I don't know. I don't know how close they got.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Sad. Regardless.
Yeah.
Regardless, it's sad.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Although, did you see that the stepson was at the Blink 182 concert, and he was like,
mourning.
He was like, "This is how I cope."
I could think of a lot of Blink 182.
Yeah, I didn't know Blink 182.
I was gonna say, are they still
I didn't know they
playing?
still did concerts. Yeah, I would look it up right now if I was connected to the internet, but yeah, I didn't even know. I'm actually gonna check the time to see how much battery we have left.
Oh my gosh.
We have 35 minutes left.
Oh, lucky for you guys, we only have 35 minutes left regardless.
Yeah. So actually, I'm just gonna keep this cursor down here so it stays there.
There you
Lights
go.
that up.
There you go.
All right. What else? You got any other current events?
No, I mean, like I said, the submarine thing was sad because people died, and then the Huggins thing is sad because now we don't even have basketball to look forward to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
rifle team is still like rocking it.
Yeah, yeah.
But they don't put that on
Yeah.
ESPN, who does not sponsor this podcast.
ESPN also not sponsors. Yes.
The Ocho. The rifle team.
Well, that happened because we're drinking this Guatemalan coffee.
Right.
So you just said the Ocho.
The Ocho,
Yeah.
see? That's what it was.
All right. Biblical topic. I got the idea for the biblical topic. You gave your sermon this Sunday from Mark 5.
Yeah.
Right? Mark
Yeah.
5.
I think.
And it was a 4 or 5?
It was 5. Don't
5.
do that to me. It was 5.
It was 5.
Okay, yeah.
It was
5.
It was 5. Sorry. I was paying attention.
Right, obviously.
And
Me too.
Yeah. I believe it or not, when I used to pastor at White Rock, I drove home from the beach left Myrtle Beach at 9 o'clock at night and drove through the night and then went to church that morning.
Do we have a recording of that sermon?
I don't think so. It might be out there. It was before. I didn't start recording until COVID, so I don't think so.
That one might be gold.
Yeah. I remember we were in Bible study before the sermon started, and somebody said tabernacle, and they said, "What does that mean exactly?" And I literally just felt words circling my head, and I was like, I don't know. I was like this.
I've been there.
Yeah. So
I've been there.
yeah, I've given some sermons where I'm asleep.
Yeah, sometimes I walk away and I'm just like, that was horrendous.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, there's been a few times where I'm like, I'm not coming back because they're going to kick me out of here.
I have felt that. I have definitely felt that. This church has been so patient with me. Truthfully, I think, and the churches I pastored previous to this, I mean, they were very patient with me. My buddy found some old CDs of some sermons that I preached whenever I was 16, 17 years old. And, yeah.
Pretty bad, huh?
So, I've looked at some of those and I thought, those pastors that invited me to their church, that probably spent the next 4 weeks trying to clean up the mess that I made with that sermon, were very gracious. Now, I thought they were all fuddy-duddies,
Yeah.
and just, but they were very gracious. And then they would invite you back, and it was
yeah.
I've thought about that a lot, and if you can't really mess up in church, if there's no grace for your big mess up in church, I don't know where else you can find it.
Yeah.
So
No, I agree.
I've tried to extend that.
There has
to
to be
people
a lot
before.
of good coaching.
Sure.
Yeah, it's always important for a younger pastor or younger, evangelist, teacher, regardless,
Yeah,
whatever the
yeah.
position is that you're trying to fill in the church. You have to have kind of a mentor, because if not, it'd get pretty rough real quick.
Oh yeah. No, and I've tried to do that before, but just because, and I had wonderful pastors. Don't get me wrong on that, but I kind of felt like there was just this expectation that you get thrown out.
Yeah.
And you just see what happens.
Yeah.
Like sink or swim.
Yeah.
And so the first person I had in my pastoral ministry that felt a call to preach, I sat down and did a lot of mentoring.
I just spilled water on myself in front of the camera.
No, better than coffee.
And now I'm just going to sit here.
But no, I tried to mentor them and kind of walk them through that, and I hope it was helpful. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
maybe they might actually be talking about that right now on another podcast.
Yeah, they probably are.
I had this pastor once that was awful.
I had a pretty good joke that just came to my mind on that, but I'm going to hold that one myself and tell you afterwards, because it's a pretty hot take.
Okay. I'll allow that.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Oh yeah, we were talking about the Bible or something.
Yeah, so you used the phrase Markian sandwich.
Yeah.
And immediately, I had never heard the phrase Markian sandwich, but I knew exactly what you were talking about. I never heard it phrased that way, but I knew exactly what you were talking
You like
about.
the phrase?
Yeah, I did.
That's good. I like the phrase.
It's
not original.
Okay. I was going to say. All right. I was going to say, surely somebody else.
But it's memorable.
But yeah, it's really memorable. So immediately I went to chapter 11 because, and in particular, I told you I have a really hard time studying things in our eschatology.
Yeah?
So I don't know why. I'm just a freak like that.
Yeah, you're geared that way.
Yeah. But Matthew 24 in the Olivet Discourse, everybody uses Mark 11 or the equivalent. Matthew, maybe? I can't remember. It's in I think one of the other synoptics. But anyway.
I'll believe you.
Yeah. But anyway, they use the two to show that Israel is the fig tree, which is a major oversimplification, I think, out of what you pull from that, just given the Markian sandwich. Mm-hmm. Do you have any thoughts on that, sir?
Well, actually, you just want to read that little passage about the fig tree? Just read that there, and then...
you want me to read, or you?
Yeah, you go ahead and read. You've got that.
What if I'm not that good of a reader?
You have a nice voice.
You think so?
Yeah.
I think my voice sounds annoying. I have no idea how my wife's married to me.
Well, they can...
All right, so...
I don't either.
Let's see.
So this is like the triumphal entry. It's
here we go. So it's Palm Sunday, and it says, many spread their garments in the way, others cut down branches off the trees and strawed them in the way, and they that went before, and they that followed cried, saying, Hosanna, blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord. Blessed be the kingdom of our father David that cometh in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest. And Jesus entered into Jerusalem and into the temple. Mm-hmm. And when he had looked round about upon all things, and now the eventide was come, he went out unto Bethany with the 12. And on the morrow, when they were come from Bethany, he was hungry, and seeing a fig tree afar off having leaves, he came, if haply he might find anything thereon. And when he came to it, he found nothing but leaves, for the time of the figs was not yet. And Jesus answered and said unto it, No man eat fruit of thee hereafter forever. And his disciples heard it, and they come to Jerusalem, and Jesus went into the temple and began to cast out them that sold and bought in the temple, and overthrew the tables of the money changers and the seats of them that sold doves, and would not suffer that any man should carry any vessel through the temple. And he taught, saying unto them, It is not written, My house shall be called of all nations the house of prayer, but ye have made it a den of thieves. And the scribes and the chief priests heard it, and sought how they might destroy him, for they feared him, because all the people were astonished at his doctrine. And when even was come, he went out of the city. And in the morning, as they passed by, they saw the fig tree dried up from the roots. And Peter, calling to remembrance, saith unto him, Master, behold, the fig tree which thou cursed is withered away. And that was from, I didn't say where I read from, that was from Mark 11, verse 8, all the way to 21.
Yeah.
And that's the sandwich. It starts out palms, and then we go temple, and then we go fig, and then we go temple, and then we go back to fig.
Yep. Yeah,
the Markian sandwich.
Yeah, well, and specifically with that passage, I mean, kind of the place that I fall on is you see the fig tree that's happening, and then you see the temple, and this, this is where Jesus is throwing over the tables and is just causing a scene in the temple.
Right.
And then they come back later, and it's like, oh yeah, there's that fig tree that he cursed, and it withered and died. I tried to curse Taco Bell one time.
I remember you talking about that.
Yeah,
they raised the price.
They raised the price on
the
their cheesy double beef burrito. Yeah.
How did it work?
It didn't.
That's because you didn't say it right.
I don't know.
That's what.
Or I didn't understand what this passage was doing.
That's what the name it and claim it crowd would say. They would say, "Well, you didn't.
I didn't have enough faith.
You didn't have enough faith, and you didn't speak it correctly."
Yeah, I was mad. I was in college.
Maybe you should have spoken tongues.
I was an 89 cent. Because God would hear me saying that in tongues and
Yeah.
be like, oh, well, now I don't have an option.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I have to.
That would have been what.
Now I have to curse Taco Bell.
Yeah, that's how that works.
Yeah. But it's fascinating. So first of all, with the fig tree, in Jerusalem, you have two different fruits on the fig tree, if you will, like the earlier fruit and the later fruit. Based on the time frame, Jesus would have been looking at this earlier fruit, which isn't as good as a fig, but it's edible.
Right. The main harvest of the fruit comes in the fall.
Right. But what you're looking at is this fig tree has leaves on it, and it should have those little, and I can't even think of what they're called now, but the little fruit.
Figlets.
Figlets. We'll call them figlets. It should have the figlets. But it has all these leaves and no figlets. And which is a telltale sign that actually this fig tree is not going to produce fruit in the fall either. So essentially what's happening is he shows up. There are no... I'm not going to be able to not say figlets from now on. There are no figlets.
That was a theological term.
Yeah, it is a theological term. There were no figlets on the tree. And so it would just be known, like, okay, there's going to be no fruit on this. So this tree looks alive, right? It has all the leaves, and it looks nice. It looks lush. It looks like it's going to be fruitful. But there's going to be no fruit on this thing. And then all of a sudden, you go from that, Jesus cursing it because of that, to the temple, where this is supposed to be a house of prayer for all nations. And yet it's this very exclusive bunch, so to speak. And even where they're set up in these outer courts should have been for Gentile worship. And so they've even taken the only place that people could... You ever tried to pray in Walmart? Here we go, back at Walmart.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the most conducive place to pray.
Right.
Can you imagine being a Gentile and trying to pray? I mean, being a God-fearer, that believes in the Jewish God, but all the people around you are selling things. It's a big market.
Right.
And so Jesus is like, this is a place for prayer for all the nations, and you've turned it into a den of thieves. And then when you come back, then all of a sudden that's where that Markian sandwich is happening there. Come back to the fig tree, and it's withered up and it's died. It's not that Jesus hated fig trees, figs, or figlets.
Figlets.
But I think he is speaking a lot to Israel. And I think can be some practical implication even for us now. I mean, if you recall, he called the Pharisees whitewashed tombs that look good on the outside but are full of dead men's bones.
Yeah.
And so I think you see that kind of happening. And Paul echoes some of this language in Romans, where he's talking about that in essence the Jews have rejected, and so this blessing falls to the Gentiles. And that's not anti-Semitic. That's not anti-Jewish in any way. It's just that's Jesus is the Jewish Messiah, and we see that all through the Old Testament that this this Messiah is not just exclusively for the Jews, but it's opening up to all nations, to the whole world. So anyway.
One thing I think that is really interesting and often gets overlooked is Palm Sunday in that passage, because you see when at the Mount of Transfiguration, when Jesus goes up and Moses and Elijah are there, Peter, I can't remember where it's at, but Peter is down and he's making booths. Do you remember that?
Oh, on the Mount of Transfiguration, when he says, "Oh, this is great that we're all here. We should make booths, or we should make tabernacles."
Right.
Yeah, for each one to remember this.
Right.
To worship here.
Because even looking at like Zechariah 14, where it says when the Messiah, in the days of Messiah, we'll celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles. It says everybody's going to come, and Gentiles, nations, everybody's. I think it even says Egypt. Zechariah, where's that at? Zechariah. I wrote that down. Zechariah 14.
Oh, you brought notes.
Yeah, I brought a couple notes.
That's nice.
Although we're going to run out of time because I think we only have like 20 minutes.
Yeah, well.
17 minutes left.
Next time I'll bring notes.
And
you better bring a charger.
I'll bring a charger next time. That was unfortunate. Let's see, Zechariah 14:16. It shall come to pass that everyone that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem, shall even go up from year to year to worship the King of the Lord of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. And then it does go on to say, if the family of Egypt, they don't go up. That's what I was thinking of, where it goes on in verse 18. It says, if the kingdom of Egypt doesn't go up, then the Lord won't bless them with rain. But there was this expectation. So in my opinion, what Peter was trying to do was, Peter thought, okay, there's Elijah. I know from the prophet Micah that, or it was Micah? It's Micah. I know from the prophet Micah that I'm expecting Elijah. I know that there's Jesus, and I'm pretty sure he's the Messiah at this point. Mm-hmm. And so the reason why he's building with the palms, the Feast of Booths, like they would have done, because that's what it says to do in Leviticus? No. Yeah.
When in doubt, say Leviticus.
Yeah,
Nobody reads it.
When in doubt, say Leviticus.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what...
Nobody reads Leviticus.
That's what the Levitical law said, was that take palm branches and make houses, make booths. So we start out, we've got the palms, we've got the sandwich starts, the temple, the fig, the temple, the fig. I heard a sermon on this once where the guy, I don't know if it was a sermon so much as it was a Bible lesson, where he talked about there's a lot of people. Actually, it was against Kenneth. Kenneth Copeland would not have liked this.
Oh, okay.
So he said there was a lot of people. He said the reason why they had the palms was that they were expecting Jesus was the Messiah. He's going to go and he's going to throw the Romans out. And they're getting the palms ready for the Feast of Booths.
Ah,
it was an interesting take on that.
Yeah. Huh.
So they thought he was going to go up and throw the Romans out, except instead of going this way, he goes this way, and he kicks the thieves out of the temple. And he basically made it the equivalent of today with the name it and claim it crowd and those that are kind of prostituting the Word of God. He said, or the Kingdom Now people, all those sorts of things. He basically equivalated that to what was happening here, where there's a lot of people that want the Messiah with the blessings. They want what he has to offer, but they don't want to go towards the cross. Mm-hmm. Instead, they want to go right to throwing the Romans out, power, dominion, all of those things.
Sure.
So I thought that was pretty interesting. So basically, where it calls the church, the New Testament calls the church the temple a couple times, and I wrote that down too. Corinthians, Ephesians. So he said equivalent. Yeah, it absolutely has to do with Israel, but at the same time, it also calls the church the temple, and in the same way, there has to be a bit of a cleansing of the temple with us as well.
Yeah.
Which it gets really interesting when you look at Revelation. Because in where it echoes the seals.
Is this before or after the rapture?
Do you really want me to say that?
I'm sorry.
Do you really want me to go there?
Maybe we could talk about rapture theology someday.
I would definitely have to bring my charger that day.
And your charts.
And my charts. I will bring everything I have out of the woodwork on that. Where that gets interesting is in the sixth seal, Revelation chapter 6, you've got, I beheld when he had opened the sixth seal, lo, there was a great earthquake. The sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood, and the stars of heaven fell under the earth, even as a fig tree casts her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. This fits Matthew 24 like a hand in a glove. I mean, it's the same verbiage, and then you even go to the point of you have the fig tree as well. So I think that's extremely interesting. But then, once we see those people talked about again, it mentions them in chapter 7, and this is where I believe it is actually the rapture, if we're going to go there. Let's see. After this I behold, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations, kindreds, and people, and tongues, stood before the throne, before the Lamb, clothed with white robes. What do they got in their hands? Palms in their hands. So you've got the white robe people here, you've got the white robe people here, and they've got palms in their hands.
Yeah.
Really interesting to look at in terms of eschatology. because the one that everybody goes to is that's Israel, and basically, if you accept that has to absolutely be Israel, then you're accepting that, in my opinion, that you're saying God cursed Israel as a whole. But most of the people that say that also would agree with me when I say that God has prophetic purpose for Israel.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But I think, especially with what hyper-dispensational people tend to do, is they tend to pull the good parts of Israel for me, put the bad parts of Israel for them, and they kind of just keep grabbing, pulling, or they get into, well, it's dispensationalism. God doesn't work with Israel right now. He's only working with the church. But then most of those people would also agree that if you look at Ezekiel 38, that the Valley of Dry Bones is almost certainly God regathering Israel and Israel becoming a nation 2,000 years later. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's almost like this, I get to pick and I get to choose when it's Israel, when it's not Israel.
Well, that's the best way to do theology, right? You
Yeah.
You get to pick and choose.
Yeah.
You don't have to be consistent.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But that's sort of a take that I have on that. And I had a bunch of other verses, but we're going to run out of time because of this battery. But we got 10 minutes. But, and even what's kind of interesting, too, is there's a focus on the fig tree itself, but it's also not just the fig tree. It's also the other trees as well. I can't remember what other passage. It's Matthew. I think it's Luke. When Luke gives the Olivet Discourse, Luke says the fig tree, and then it's like, oh yeah, and the other trees. There's a little bit of a difference between Matthew and Luke in that aspect where it talks about the fig trees and the other trees. Mm-hmm. And so you can do a whole study about trees, honestly. And kind of what you were going back to with the leaves on the fig tree. I heard another sermon where the guy equivalated the leaves, because the Jews to this day say that the tree of life was actually a fig tree.
I've heard that, yeah.
Yeah, to this day, that's what they say. It was a fig tree. So, like, for instance, a Messianic Jew, when he reads, I saw you, Nathaniel, in John 1, he says, I saw you, Nathaniel, when you were under the fig tree. Mm-hmm. That he's talking about, I saw you when you were sitting under the tree of life. Mm. It was kind of an interesting take on that.
You know, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Eastern Orthodox Church has taught for centuries that the cross of Christ, that the cross Jesus died on, was made from wood from a fig tree.
Wood from a fig tree?
Yeah. Now, I mean, like, you can't really necessarily prove that, outside of just like tradition or legend or that kind of thing. But it is interesting.
Yeah.
And it also, I don't know, my mind just keeps going to Genesis. What did Adam and Eve hide their nakedness?
And that's where they say,
fig leaves.
even Jews to this day, or Messianic Jews, those that believe and don't believe in Jesus, they all kind of say the same thing, where the leaves that they hid themselves were fig leaves. And when we see that there's a difference between the works that are covering you and then the fruit, and that this Bible lesson in particular, it equivalated the leaves to the works that we do, but the works won't bring us to salvation, but rather the fruit. I can't remember the total way that worked.
The leaves make the tree look good.
But that
useless.
In the summertime, with the way that, kind of what you were talking about earlier, with the way that the fruit comes on in the summer.
The figlets.
The figlets, where they come on in the summer. If the leaves weren't there, the fruit would be burned up. So you have to have salvation first, but you have to have works to go along with it. You know what I mean? Like, not to say you work your way to heaven, but
faith without works.
Faith without works is dead. Because otherwise the sun, and the summer sun especially, would dry out the fruit and it would kill it. So it was an interesting take on that. Whereas before, we're always told, hey, this is Israel, and then I heard that lesson, and it kind of really stuck with me on that.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot. I think there's a lot of study and a lot more discussion that could go into that.
Yeah,
for sure. But We are running out of time.
We are running out of time. Oh, Jude chapter 12, it refers to backsliders. Let's read that one real quick. That's going to be our last one because we are pretty much out of time. And Jude's just right here sitting next to Revelation.
And if this cuts off without an ending, it was the rapture.
It was the pre-tribulation rapture that's not real.
Write more emails.
Let's see. It kind of is scolding here. It says, "Woe unto them, for they have," this is 11, "Woe unto them, for they have gone in the way of Cain, and ran greedily after the error of Balaam for reward, and perished in the gainsaying of Kor." And a lot of people equate the way of Cain. Cain was using, instead of the blood sacrifice, he was using the field.
Yeah.
Kind of another thing of using works, as kind of how I've heard that before. "These are spots in your feasts of charity, when they feast with you, feeding themselves without fear. Clouds they are without water, carried about of winds." And it says, "Trees whose fruit withereth, without fruit, twice dead, plucked up by the root." So kind of, if you consider in the other trees, the parable of the other trees, and you read that, it's kind of interesting. So when you study your Bible this week, study about trees is what we're getting at.
Yeah, take a look at this stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, and cross-reference some stuff.
Yeah.
You begin to learn the Bible is one grand narrative.
Yeah.
You know, it's telling one cohesive story.
Yeah.
So.
All right, we're about to run out of time.
Yeah.
You have anything else?
I have nothing.
All
We don't
right.
have a cool sign-off, do we?
No, we don't. We want to get a place for people to submit questions, so that way you can ask us questions, and we could have a whole segment where we answer people's questions.
Yeah. So if you have an option to comment on wherever you're listening to this.
Yeah, we don't know for sure where we're posting this. We don't know who the audience is.
We didn't throw this together, guys.
Yeah.
At all.
If I get one like, I will do another one with Austin here.
There we
I will be the one like, and Austin may be the commenter. So
Yeah. I'll ask my own question.
yeah. You ask your own question.
Softball.
All right. We're signing off. Goodbye.